Welcome back to Granja Caimito in the Pedroche Valley of Andalusia, Spain. Spring seems to be coming, and everything is starting to grow more rapidly and more vigorous than before. Let's start with some impressions of the wannabe food forest. This here is the vetiver that we have around the platform that we created by filling it up, filling it up. And as you can see, it is starting to green up. It is still too cold for the vetiver to actually strive, because by night we have single-digit centigrades. But during the day, the plant seems to sense the heat coming and has started its growth cycle again. We don't intend to cut it here, because it's a slope and we don't want to create a lot of trouble, and it's also a bit difficult. We might do this sometime later, given a proper tool, but at least this is the beginning. So we are still in winter. Spring starts officially on the 21st of March, and we are still a bit away from that. But this is how it begins. This here is the upper part of B1, the area where we have the Paulownia trees. They are starting to sprout, and we opened the gate down there so that the horses and sheep can come in. The area, according to our statistics, is now ready for grazing, and there is some forage that has grown. So if I pan across a little bit, you might be able to see that, but a lot of the grass is still short. But the idea is that the animals come in and nib a little bit on what is already long and add more manure, so that when actual spring comes around, this can then show rampant growth because of the additional nutrition. We know how this can look like from last year, so this should not be different this year. And what I also think is happening is the area gets more evenly filled with plants. So it's not only about long leaves and all that, but also that there are enough plants so that eventually the soil is completely covered and there are no empty spots, which then, when the heat starts, keeps it cooler for a longer time. Right here where I'm standing, I have not moved since the last clip. This is in the animal lane, so if I pan up you can see it. And here the horses have manured, and now this is growing quite well. Of course they won't nip on it, because the manure is still too fresh. Horses try to avoid places where they have manured themselves. Cows, on the other hand, would have no problem to eat this. So this is how it looks like after we have played the game with the straw. We are waiting for seed, so this is now just straw. It is basically the trampled biomass that other people achieve when they have very tall grass and then the animals trample it, what they don't eat. So in our case, we buy the biomass and still let them trample and manure upon it and urinate. And this is what we get. So the growth here in this area has been very slow and only few plants. As you can see if I pen down. So here you see how the soil cover looks like. There's a lot missing. But that way we add the missing bit. And hopefully what exists will grow a little bit better, and when we distribute some additional seeds, and that might be the next round, then we have a much better cover. So I have the feeling that this is a very good technique to solve the main problem. And here they will continue. This needs to be spread out. Of course they have been in here because overnight they jumped this single strand of polywire, which is why we already have some manure in here, because they ate most of this bale here. But that's okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. It is good enough that they stay in this area as a mob and add their droppings, and there is some hoof action, and our job is then to fix this, add seeds, and that way we can improve the area, one area at a time. And right across from this area we have that. That is natural, that's around the oak trees. And now we have that mustard come up also. So this area is not that bad, but it's in better shape because there are more trees. So this doesn't need a lot of straw, it just needs grazing. But there is an area right here where we can certainly drop a little bit of straw to add the missing biomass. I've been close to the entrance to our land, and that offered an opportunity to pen from right, the neighbor, to the left, which is our land. We have received some duckweed in the mail, and we want to try how it goes here in this pond that is step by step filling up.
¿Facciamo todo en el mismo lado?
No. Repártelo. Ponte por otro lado.
Lo echamos un poco en todos lados.
Y un poco aquí en este lado, ya está. Dale la vuelta y te pones en aquella isleta. ¿Dónde está el gato?
Aquí hay más.
Por falta de agua no será. Supposedly it multiplies very rapidly. Let's see how it goes, if the temperature is right and who might eat it. There is moisture coming from the sky, so let's go and check this out. So here you have the first part, and I will now go in there and have a closer look at the rest of this area, and especially how the rye looks like in those trenches. So here we have one of the trenches with the rye. It had suffered a little bit. There are some yellow leaves, but overall this looks pretty good. Of course it needs to become taller, but the more interesting thing is it has not suffered from waterlogging. Apparently that is because there wasn't enough rain in one go, or probably that a lot of the water also infiltrates because the ground is very, very dry and therefore absorbs a lot when there is something. And all the places where we placed seeds are becoming more and more green. Before there was absolutely nothing here but stones. So this is looking pretty good. Because up there noticed that the blue cow has come and they hear my voice and they are mooing. They are thinking about getting pellets, but that is not my job during the week. So they have to stay there, and there is a fence, so they can't really come here where I am. There are some patches where it's looking dark green, like this one here. And then there are other places where it is more yellowish. And I would assume that during the wait for the rain, this got a little bit dry, and therefore the rye suffered. But overall, I think rye in the trench is not a failure. And even here, this tiny little patch of new grass is also a positive thing. You can see it has suffered because it is yellowish, but now that we are getting rain, this certainly will recover. And further there is more of that. We see that quite a bit here. And that includes the rye in all those trenches. So here is another one. I'm very happy with the results so far. So what used to be an absolute disaster is now coming back with force, so to say. It is actually quite difficult to walk around here because of all the stones. But then, like I'm always saying, if you try to remove them with a machine, you will just find more. Because you can see it here. When I dug this, I dug out stones and some other geological stuff. So there is no soil of any kind. Soil would be minerals plus organic material, and this is mostly minerals. Oh, it's pretty sandy, and there's a very, very thin layer of topsoil, and you can see here that there's more stones than soil. So this is a different thing. But I'm pretty confident that with the addition of nutrients and seeds and therefore living plants and living roots, this will change. And there will be the day when we can walk here on a soft surface instead of almost hurting ourselves by working on those loose rocks. And here in the last one of those trenches, yes, the rye is there, but it's much less developed than further ahead. Because it got dry. The plan is to keep this area off limits for the cows as long as the grass needs to go to seed. And when the grass has gone to seed, then we bring in the cows to harvest what is left and trample the new seed, so that the areas between the patches hopefully then get filled. And next year during autumn we can probably overseed, and that way this will become a nice pasture. The mustard flowers have also shown up here. I'm not really sure whether they were here before last year. I think they have not been, so this is also a good sign. I am being asked where to go next. Here the guys started to divide this temporary paddock. So there is now one functioning gate and one that will be a gate. And you see there's a new fence line. And this new fence line encloses this area here where we have a lot of oak trees. So this is basically one paddock. It is not the 5,000 square meters, it is less. It might be something between 3,000 and 4,000, but it's okay. 5,000 is a target size, it does not have to be exactly that size. And I should see another fence line there. I see the posts. And that is then a second area and a third one. So there in the background you see some straw bales. That is where I will go next, while we let this other area recover a little bit. So we divided one temporary paddock in 3, and as we have 10 temporary paddocks, we might end up with up to 30. They will not all be divided. For example, the one up there, where they are currently, there in the distance, this one is just 3,300 square meters, so we cannot divide this any further. So, and others are probably much bigger, so maybe we can divide one in 4 or 5. We will have to see how this goes. Right now, we decided to use those metal posts. They can be reused. They're pretty easy to put in. I find they look ugly, but here in this case it is more important the function than the form. In our zone A, where we started, I wanted this to look pretty because it's basically the entrance and the front door, so to say. But eventually I want to have this all very nice, and nice consists of nice wooden fence posts that white band to make the fence visible from afar, and also a lot of lush vegetation. And step by step we will therefore then replace these with wooden fence posts as we improve the area and as we figure out where to plant what and all that. So we will reuse them a few times, and then they will be replaced for the final design when it emerges. This is also a nice little detail. You see this feather here? That is from a large bird. I do not know what kind of bird, but it's interesting to see. And I can also say that we are seeing a lot more birds. Not all of them I can capture on camera because they're too fast or I have the camera not with me. But for example, I did see the other day 3 ravens, and they were very big, and they are much bigger than the magpies. I have not seen ravens here before. And I'm pretty sure that we will see more bird species show up as the land improves. It's a good indicator. So right here in that loop, in that curve, there's going to be another door, another gate, and then you can see that we have already the fence post set in, and the wire is missing, and that will then follow, and then the cows will be able to come in and graze the straw bales together with pellets on that side, because that side is much poorer than the other one, and we want to concentrate them here on the right side a little bit, while the better situation here improves a little bit with rain and sunshine. And then we will add certainly more straw for volume, but at least they will then be able to graze this like a regular grassy area, because under the trees the grass will always grow a lot better. So not all is straw, they also get some of their nutrition from actual grass while they are here. And down here we have our aromatics area, 1 of 2, and we will leave this alone for as much as we can until we have figured out how to manage that properly. So you see, here is the end of the road, so to say. So this fence keeps everybody in the area that is more pasture-like, and the aromatics are to the right, and we will then see how we are going to play that. If I go here a little bit, you see there is in the distance, let me zoom in a bit, so there you see a white fence post, so that is our border, that is the perimeter fence, and there is another grassy area, or that could be grassy, before we then come to the aromatics. So that is another smaller paddock, and we can somehow make an entrance there. but we don't know exactly how to do this just yet, because we don't want to have a paddock that needs to be used to transit to another paddock. So we need to figure out where to put another lane here. And as this is not yet clear, we just keep it excluded for the time being. And there's not much growth anyway. And it's probably a good thing to leave it alone for a while. So next autumn, that will then be a topic. But I can speculate a little bit. So if we have a gate there, I mean here between these two, then we could probably make a lane that includes the trees. Thinking about pigs, they can come and roam along that line or that lane and eat the acorns. So we can move this lane through there, and then we come to the perimeter, and then this can go right, and suddenly we have access to this other flat area there in the background and cultivate grass. And the aromatics still are excluded in their very own zone. That might be a possibility. I know you guys like to see that. It's now half an hour that it rains like that. And the whole day has been cloudy and a slight dribble. And like I said, since for about 30 minutes, it is raining for real. That should fill up the swales and ponds. So that was it for today. Please come back in a few days to learn how much it actually rained.